I've tried sitting down here in like 20 different positions, none of which look good, so just bear with me and don't judge. Yay. So the whole focus of today is going to be installing the Duraflex D-1 FRP hood on the 240SX S13 behind me. Alright, so of course the next thing that we need for the front end is a hood to put on there and fenders, so that way we can align everything. Sweet! Plus one to Duraflex on the packaging. I mean, it has pieces of wood bolted to the hood, and so that way it doesn't chip the edges. And then of course over here it had all the bubble wrap. That's pretty good. Look how massive this thing is. So 3 reasons behind getting this hood. The first one is weight reduction. Now this fiberglass hood weighs a lot less than the stock one, and that's going to benefit us. Number 2 is the vents in it, and that's going to give a ton of cooling benefits later on when we go turbo on the car. And number 3 is it looks like looks so good. It looks so dope. So 180.8 pounds. 166.6. 142.8. Okay, now before I put the hood on, I'm going to notch this hood hinge, and so as you can see it stops right here. So if you ground down the back of this tab, you can actually make the hood go completely vertical and rest against the windshield. Which is going to make it a lot easier for me personally just on installing it alone. So I'm going to notch that. As you can see here, that's what keeps it from stopping, is right there. So as long as I just cut that area out, and this will be able to go all the way forward and have full range of motion. Now we can go all the way, no stops. Goes all the way back. I can lay it against the windshield. Alright, let's see whether or not I crack this, trying to put it on by myself. That's so big. Isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's so neat. Okay, so from Duraflex, this already comes pre-installed with mesh in it. I don't like the way the mesh looks at all, so I'm just going to take that off right now. I mean, it's pretty simple. You just undo these tabs right here. So as you can see now, it's just vented and it's all good. It was a pain trying to line up everything with the hood on here. Not the hood's fault, it's just because I was having issues with the hinges. But basically how to do it was I undid these 2 bolts over here, made them loose. I undid the 2 bolts here, made it loose. Did that on the same side. Then I laid the hood down. Then I just came over here and I basically just took measurements where this one hole was at. I went and made it touch the car. Of course, I have little square over here. Took a measurement right there, came over here, did another measurement right where this spot weld was at, and I compared it with the other side, and so I basically adjusted the hood until I got both of those within like 1/16 of an inch measurement from that side to this side. Then I got a wrench, and I actually shoved the wrench over here and was able to tighten down the hinges. And you can finally lift up your hood and do the real final tightening. You know, you kind of just need it snug so it doesn't move when you lift it up. I then kind of mocked up the fiberglass front fenders from Duraflex as well, just to double check my measurements and make sure that the hood was actually sitting straight. Now, I'm not sure what happened to all my footage. I literally had like a couple more hours of footage that I can't seem to find whatsoever, and it's about making the brackets and describing how the hood latch mechanism works. Now, like I said, I lost some footage, and so I basically have to make these brackets in order to hold this pin in place, and this goes into the hood latch. So this bracket is just made out of 12 gauge steel. It's kind of just cut out into a square with one hole drilled in it that's wide enough for this pin to slide into, and then it bolts in from underneath and from the top. Has 2 nuts. You can adjust it to the appropriate length, and that's how this little bracket works right here. So very similar setup to how I did the radiator brackets is how I'm doing the hood pin brackets. So the angle has been measured of the degree over here, kind of just a rough estimate to what I feel that the hood angle is going to be at. Of course, everything is held in with magnets and squared off. Everything is measured to be approximately 4 inches from the radiator hole out. So now I'm just going to tack it in place with one tack and then test fit on the car and see how it sits. So I just dropped it in, and there you go. You can see the tab right there and the angle of the hood. Pretty spot on. Now, as far as the angle of this bracket goes, you're supposed to match this angle with the angle of the latch up top, give or take 5 degrees, and that is the proper install for this. So hence why it is at a curve. With the brackets tacked in place, the next step was to install the hood pins, adjust them to the height that they need to be at, and then drill holes through the hood in order to fit them. I'm just going to put a dab of toothpaste on there. Now you can see on the hood right there, and right there. Alright, now I have my hole drilled, and then I have this thin piece of tape running across where the line of this hood is right here. Then I also have tape on the template to mark where the crosshair is going to be. And so I know right at this line and right at this line. So right here is going to be the center mark of the drilled hole. So with the hole drilled through the hood, the template can then be applied on top, and then you know where the center mark is at, and then you can cut out your template for the actual latch to go onto the hood. So I'm going to trace this out and then cut this. Now I just wanted to double check and make sure that the pin went all the way through and made sure it was centered on there, so I also enlarged the hole on the hood, made sure the pin went all the way through, and then recentered my template. Now I'm going to cut out the template. Alright, so because I want to make sure it's exact on the other side, I took my piece of cardstock. I've already trimmed it around the edges over here and made sure to tape it down. And now I can feel for where the hole is, which is here. No. There you go. And now you have another template, and on top of that, it goes exactly with the curve of the hood, so I can just flip it over, put it on that side, and then immediately start just cutting away at this with the Dremel. I have it transferred over here. Taped up, I measured it and checked it over there. Now time to cut. Of course I dropped my glasses. My love with the cocoa. So you can see this fits in right here. Doesn't line up with the pin though, so I'm going to have to redo that bracket, which I already knew of. But yeah. That's some symmetrical stuff right there. I like that. Looks killer. Now as far as where to position the latches, I see some people mount it up and down over here. Some people put them sideways, some people put them over here. I chose to put them here. The reason being that if you mount this latch vertically like that, there's too much of a curve in the hood, and so there ends up being gaps on the ends of the latch when you bolt it down because this doesn't want to flex to the curvature of the hood. So I decided to install it over here sideways, and then also to match the slope of the headlight opening right here on the hood. So that way altogether it's all the same curvature. It looks really nice. It looks pretty aggressive having it like that. I just love the way it looks. Take note, you also don't want to install it too far outward, because otherwise if you get towards the outer shell of the fiberglass, you're going to have a tendency to start cracking it because there's just going to be too much force on it. So as you can tell how off the mount is from the latch. So it needs to go both back and to the right. So I'm just going to cut off the tack welds and then re-weld it in the proper position. That way it can look like this, which is how it's supposed to be. And of course it fits right in there, perfect. You can see this is at the angle that the hood is going to be sitting at. I just have a welding magnet on the back over here to make sure it's square and also keep it in place at that angle. Now I'm going to come underneath with a welder and just put like a tack over there. Kind of just weld it in place, and then I'll take it off and then weld it again. And then of course I'll open up the hood, make sure it's sitting how I want it to, and if it is, then I'll weld in a couple more tacks and then move on to something else. As you can see, fits right there, beautiful. Slides in and out. Now I just gotta weld it some more. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Now with the pin welded in on the bottom, the latch installed, the next thing to do is to fasten the latch in. That's basically going to be the last part. So of course holes need to be drilled over here. Once those are drilled, you can drop the bolts in, then go from underneath and then bolt up this backing plate. This is a 5/32 inch drill bit. Now I got one screw in and I can go move on to another section. Since the holes are drilled up top, now it's just a matter of clearancing the bottom of the hood in order to get it so I can push this up from underneath. So this needs to be able to slide in underneath and bolt up to the hood. So it's just a matter of trimming back this bottom layer over here to get this to sandwich up against the top layer. Alright, so something I've done is I've already pressed in the nuts to this little back housing, and that makes it a lot easier now for mounting over here. There you go. So you can see this one's done, all with the bolts in, and in comparison, this is the one without it. I still need to put the latch in. Now I just need to trim down this rubber stopper and then slide it over these posts. And then that way the hood has some tension holding it up, so that way at high speeds it's not flopping up and down like this. There you go. Now the hood's pretty rigid. Of course the mount itself still needs to be gusseted. And of course these ones are the locking ones. And now they can't be opened. I know a lot of guys that don't get the locked ones, but because this is going to be replacing the OEM hood latch, and this is the only two things keeping it from the hood being popped open, on top of that I do still plan to drive on the street. I really wanted to have this hood covered and be able to lock it. And the thing with hood latches is that it is basically a necessity when you're running a fiberglass or carbon fiber hood that you do run hood latches. And the reason for that is that the stock little latch that they give you that goes into the OEM location, that one is just metal and it's glued in and epoxied into the fiberglass, and so that has a tendency to pull out during high speed applications. So it is always recommended, no matter what manufacturer, anything, that you always run hood pins in addition to your stock latch, or you don't even need to run your stock latch, but you need to have hood pins running on your hood in order to keep it from flying up and from that center latch, you know, just straight pulling out because it's only epoxied in place. Alright, so now that the hood mounts are done, pretty much everything on the front end is almost just about finalized. Now, I don't know if you can tell or not, but there is some flex in this plate right here. So in order to stop the flex and make it a lot stronger, I'm just going to make a triangle gusset over here. And that way it actually has something to support the weight under it, and it's not just welded around the tip. What I'm going to do now is remove the entire front end. That's just to make it easier for lining up the gussets underneath. It took 6 minutes to do that. Not bad. Okay, so I have two magnets holding it in place. It's centered, looking good. Now I'm going to tack weld it in place. Okay, that one's done. Here we go. No more downward flex. It's just solid now. This is nice. So that was that. I had no issues installing the Duraflex hood whatsoever. Freaking fits great. I love the way it looks. It's going to help with cooling. It reduces a ton of weight off the front end of the car. And yeah, I'm pretty sure those are all the points that I covered. Now, if you do like this hood and you want to purchase it yourself, you can go to duraflexbodykits.com, or Extreme Dimensions, I believe, also carries it, and you can go check it out over there and then purchase it. There's also going to be links in the description for everything here. As always, if you like what I'm wearing, this is from whatmonstersdo.com. You can go over there, use the coupon code LADRIFT, you get 15% off. This is their crew neck, which is keeping me warm right now because it's freezing outside, and I still got to make this video for you guys because I love you guys. Okay, so that wraps it up. I hope you like it. Next episode, I'm not really sure what we're doing because everything is kind of just half finished, but we'll get there eventually. So yeah, stay tuned. Ow, my leg hurts so much, bro. Hey, check this out.